Welcome to Module 1, the types of interviews. In this module, we will dive into the types of interviews and how they may relate to the job you are hiring for. We will begin by outlining the types of interviews and then take a deeper look into each type. We will also touch on why you might want to use each type for the job you are hiring for. And lastly, we will touch on how the structured versus unstructured technique is used. We will wrap up with a summary and a connection activity that will allow you to test your knowledge. By the end of this module, you will be able to define and understand the different styles of interviews and how they may relate to the job you are hiring for. When it comes to interviewing, there are various types that you are able to choose from to help you reach the goal of finding the correct candidate. These interview types are as follows: one-on-one, panel, group, and behavioral. Choosing the right interview type can help you ensure that you are choosing the correct candidate from the candidate pool, and will also ensure that you are obtaining correct and helpful information along the way. The one-on-one interview style is the most popular and widely used interview. In this interview style, it is just you as the interviewer and the candidate involved in the interviewing process. The one-on-one can take place in various formats, such as face-to-face, online, or by telephone. Typically, questions are laid out prior to the interview, and the interview will follow a standard format. This interview type is typically structured and will use an equal amount of behavioral, situational, and standard questions to help you get to know the candidate and their relevant experience for the job. The one-on-one interview can be the easiest to gain the information you are looking for. This interview style can be used for any type of position you are hiring for in any department. The one-on-one is very standardized, and when you are unsure of which style you should use, this can be the easiest one to go for. The panel interview allows you to interview candidates alongside a group of other representatives of the company. It is most beneficial to loop in other professionals in your company who will have a direct relationship with the candidate you are hiring. In this interview, various people have the chance to ask unique questions that may be targeted toward how that candidate would interact with that department. This interview type will also allow you to gain perspectives from various people about each candidate. This interview type is best used when you are hiring for jobs that will interact heavily with various individuals or departments within your company. Each department head or representative is able to ask questions that will relate to their department and how the candidate would interact with that department. From there, you are able to judge who has the best relevant experience. The group interview is a great one to use when you want to be efficient with time. In this interview type, you have the entire candidate pool arrive at the same time. Typically, you will begin by talking to the entire group to introduce yourself and give some background on the company and the role. You will then take each individual candidate off on their own for the interview. However, you are able to observe how the candidates are interacting with one another. From a company standpoint, you want to use this interview when you want to hire fast. This will allow you to have all of the interviews on one day and choose a candidate more efficiently. This is a great interview style to use when you are hiring for a position that requires a lot of interaction with people both in the company and outside. When you want to hire someone that is outgoing and demonstrates leadership skills, the group interview will allow you to see how candidates are interacting outside of the interview with one another. The behavioral interview takes the same format as the one-on-one. However, the questions differ. In this interview, the styles are strictly behavioral and are used to gain information about how the candidate has behaved in other roles. Here, you are only focused on the experience of the candidate in specific situations they have been in before. This interview style is typically used for hiring for more technical jobs. For a role that you want to be sure a candidate has the necessary experience for, Using the behavioral interview style will allow you to focus on their relevant experience and how they have performed in the past in other roles. Each type of interview can take on the technique of structured or unstructured. In the structured interview, you will follow a standard format. This technique utilizes predetermined questions that are related by you or others involved in the interviewing process and how you might score each response. Typically, an even number of behavioral, situational, and casual questions are used, unless it's using the behavioral style of interview. An unstructured interview is one that is more natural. In this style, no format is followed. Rather, the interview is more like a conversation between you and the candidate. In this technique, sometimes the interview is left with questions about the candidate that went unanswered. So it might not always be the best choice and would need to be used with care. Follow the page down to participate in an activity that will allow you to test the information learned in this module. To summarize what you learned in today's module, we can understand that there are various interview types that can be used for different types of positions. Any of these types can utilize a structured or unstructured interview technique, and picking the right interview may actually help you find the best candidate.